Good morning, students. So here I am again in front of you with a new lesson named Rip Van Winkle. Now this lesson is written by Washington Irving. This is a lesson, we can say a story about a man. What is the name of a man? The name of a man is Rip Van Winkle. This story is set in a village at the foot of Catskill Mountain, okay, where it is founded by early Dutch colonists. Now, the character of this story, that is a Rip, he has a biggest weakness. What is the biggest weakness he has? He dislike for working. Rip is a character, or we can say Rip's character was dislike for working. He never took up a job. As a result, what happened? He became an idler and angered his wife all the time. But he became popular with the children with whom he played games. The elder of the villagers to like him because he helped them in odd jobs. So one day suddenly Rip Van went to a high up in the mountain, and there he met a short old man dressed in a old Dutch style clothes with a bushy hairs, and all her hairs, we can say all his hair were greyish in color. On his shoulder he was carrying a cage which seemed full of some kind of drink. So the Dutch, or we can say a short old man, offered a drink to a Rip. The Rip drank it over till it aimed. And what happened? When a Rip woke up, he found that he was stiff in the body and could not walk easily. His beard had grown a foot long. His dog has disappeared, and the village had now rows of houses which were not early there. So the entire thing has been changed. So for how many years we will see the Rip has been slept in the mountain? That we will see in this story now. Whoever had made a voyage up the Hudson River may remember the Catskill Mountain. They can be seen to the west of the river, swelling up to a noble height and laundering it over the surrounding country. Laundering it over means, student, standing high above. At the foot of this mountain, the voyagers may have seen the light smoke curling up from a village whose chiseled roof gleamed among the trees. It is a little village of great antiquity. Antiquity means, students, we can say of great antiquity. That means that has some been there for long time. That has been for a long time. Having been founded by some Dutch colonies in the early times. In the same village there lived, while the country was yet a province of Great Britain, a simple, good-natured fellow by the name of Rip Van Winkle. He was an unselfish man, a kind neighbor, and an obedient husband. Dam Van Winkle was on the contrary means just opposite to his husband, we can say. Known throughout the neighbor as a woman with a fiery temper. Fiery temper means very angry temper and a sharp tongue. Always used to shout, we can say. Rip was a great favorite with the villager, particularly with the children, who would shout with joy whenever he approached. He assisted at their sport, made their playthings, taught them fly kites and shoot marbles, and told them stories of ghosts and witch. That means you can see your students, the Rip used to spend his whole day with the children. The great error in Rip composition means in a personality, was an aversion, that means to dislike, to all kind of profitable labor. So I have told you previous while giving outline of the story that he disliked to work. That is was only a fault, or we can say weakness in his character. It could not be from want to perseverance. Perseverance means determination to continue doing something despite or difficult things. For he would sit on a wet rock with a heavy rod and fish all day without a murmur, even though he was not encouraged by a single nibble. He would carry a following piece on his shoulder for hours together, trudging through woods and swamp and up hills and down dell to shoot a few squirrel or wild pigeon. So, throughout the day, what he used to do? He can sit on a wet rock and with a heavy rod, with the help of a heavy rod, he can carry out a fishing without telling a single word. He could carry a following piece. Following piece means was student a short gun that is used for shooting a birds, and he can walk slowly in the wood so that he can kill the birds or pigeon. That means he likes to hunt. He would never refuse to assist a neighbor, even in the roughest toil. Roughest toil means hard work. That means he can help the neighbor in their hard work. In a word, Rip was ready to attend to anybody's business but his own. So he never used to attend his own business, never liked to work for his own. He is always helpful to the other. Rip Van Winkle was one of those happy mortal. Mortal means what? Human being. Who takes the world easy, eat white bread or brown bread. So anything his wife used to give, nicely he used to eat. No list, he was least bothered. Whichever can be got with least though or trouble. He would have loved to whistle life away in perfect contentment, but his wife kept dining his ear. Dining his ear means to shout with a loud noise about his idleness, his carelessness, and the ruin he was bringing upon his family. Poor Rip was driven to despair. His only alternative to escape from the labor of the farm and the clamor. Clamor means noisy shooting. So, the poor Drip, he wants to get away, he wants to move far away from two things. One is for to do the hard work in a farm, and another is a shouting that was made by his wife. Was to take the gun in hand and stroll away in the wood, accompanied by his dog or wolf. On one of his long rambles means a long walk with the pleaser, Rip had unconsciously scrambled up to one of the highest part of the Catskill mountain. He was at his favorite sport of squirrel shooting. So, one day what happens? Now, he was on his long walk for a pleasure, and unconsciously what he did, he just went away to the highest part of the Catskill mountain, and he was busy with his favorite sport. What was his favorite sport? Of shooting a squirrel. When he was tired, he sat down on a tree knoll. Knoll means a small round hill, we can say. He could see miles of rich woodland and far below him, following majestically the Hudson. It was getting dark. As he was about to descend means to leave, he heard a voice from the distance calling Rip Van Winkle. He looked around but could see nothing but a crow winging. Winging means, students, fly, is solitary flight across the mountain. He thought his fancy must have deceived him and turned again to descend, when he heard the same crying through the still evening air. Rip Van Winkle, Rip Van Winkle, Wolf Bristol. Bristol means what, student? That is we can say making a stood on the end. His back and growled, looking fearfully down into the glen. Glen means a narrow valley. Rip felt a wave of apprehensions. Suddenly, he saw a strange figure climbing up the rock with a heavy burden on his back. Rip was surprised to see any human being in this lonely and unfrequented place. The stranger was singular in appearance. Singular means what, student? A very unusual. He was a short, old fellow with a thick, bushy hair and grizzled, that is, his hair was grey in color, beard. He was dressed in antique Dutch fashion, a cloth jerkin strapped around the waist and a pair of breeches. He bore on his shoulder a shirt cage that seemed to be full of some drink. He made sign for Rip to approach and assist him with the load. The two labored on in silence up the wild mountain, mutually reveling one another of the load, till they came to a hollow surrounded by mountain. Here Rip saw some odd-looking people dressed in quaint outlandish fashion. So what the stranger? How was the stranger? The stranger by appearance was a short, old fellow and thick bushy hair that grizzled beard. He was dressed with a antiquate Dutch fashion. Okay, that is a jerkin. What is a jerkin? A short jacket that has no sleeves. And what he was having? He was having a cage on his shoulder, which was full of several drinks. Okay, so what he asked? He asks help from a Rip. For what? To carry the load. So both of them were helping each other in carrying the cage. And suddenly where the Rip has found himself, he has found himself in an odd looking pupil who dressed in a quaint or outlandish fashion, playing ninepins. Okay? All of them had beard of various shape and colors. Rip's companion now emptied the contents of the cage into a large flagons. Flagons means a container. Rip was tempted to test the draught. When he had drunk as much as he wanted to, he fell into a deep sleep. On waking, he found himself on a green canal where he had first seen the old man of the glen. He rubbed his eyes. It was bright sunny morning. The birds were happily twittering among the bushes. Surely, though Rip, I have not slept here all night. He recalled the occurrence before he fell asleep. As he rose to walk, he found himself stiff in the joints and wanting in his unusual active manner. He got down into the glen with difficulty and found the gully up which he and his companion had ascended the previous evening. But to his astonishment, a mountain stream was flowing down it. So, after drinking the drink or the draught that was being given by the old short man, what happened to the Rip? He fell into a deep sleep, and suddenly when he woke up, he rubbed his eyes. It was a bright sunny day. And what he thought? He thought that he might be sleeping there for the whole night. But when he looked around itself, even when he looked at his own himself, he was old, he was sticky, he was unable to walk. Okay? And everything was being changed. His dog too was nowhere to be seen, and strangely enough, his beard had grown a foot long. Rip entered the outskirts of his village, which was strangely alerted. It was a large and more populous. His familiar hunts had disappeared. Instead, there were rows of houses which he had never seen. Everything was being changed during this period of time. Even his hunting ground has changed into the settlement. Before that, during last night, though Rip has addled my poor head sadly. Addled means confused. Rip entered his house. It was empty, apparently abandoned. Abandoned means left by someone. He called loudly for his wife and children. There was nothing but silence. The villagers had gathered around him, but Rip could not recognize anyone. At this moment, a young woman with a child in her arm pressed through the throng to take a look at him. The child began to cry when he saw Rip's strange appearance. "Hush, Rip," she cried. "The old man won't hurt you." The name of the child and the tone of his mother's voice awakened a train of recollections in Rip Van Winkle's mind. So, when Rip returned back to his home, he found that his house is empty. No one is there. Even all the village started shouting loudly with the name of his wife and the children. So what happened? The villagers were gathered around the Rip house, but Rip cannot recognize anyone. And meanwhile, who has entered? A woman with a child, a woman with a small child in her arm. So what happened? As the child saw the Rip, the child began to cry. So, by hearing the voice or the tone of that woman or the mother, Rip started recollections that who is she? So Rip asked the question, what is your name? Asked Rip. Judith Gardiner, said the woman. And your father's name? Rip Van Winkle was his name, but it's 20 years since he went away from home. So after how many years the Rip has woken up? The Rip has woken up after 20 years. He had never been heard of since. His dog came back without him. I was then a little girl. Where's your mother? Oh, she died some time ago. Rip caught his daughter and her child in his arm. I am your father, young Rip Van Winkle once, old Rip Van Winkle now. Sure enough, it's Rip Van Winkle. Welcome home. Again, where have you been these 20 long years? Said an old woman who had Totter along to see him. Totter means who was walked in a slow and unsteadily way. Rip related his strange experience to them. It was Peter Vanderdonk, the most ancient inhabitant of the village, who affirmed that the Catskill mountain had always been haunted by the strange being. Rip's daughter, who was married to a farmer, took her father home, where Rip lived happily. So student, you might have understood the lesson very well. Now, I will move towards the grammar. That is a transitive and intransitive word. The word, read this sentence from the text. He made their playing thing. He strolled away into the wood. So here the word made is the verb in the first sentence and strolled is the verb in the second sentence. Both are action word, but the two are different type of action, word or verb. Usually to identify the object in the sentence, spot the verb and ask who or what receives the action of the verb. In the first sentence, ask who or what receives the action of the verb made. The answer, they are playing things, is the object of the sentence, while in the second sentence there is no object to receive the action by the word strolled. The verb in the first sentence is said to be a transitive verb, while the verb in the second sentence is said to be a intransitive verb. The structure of a sentence with a transitive verb in its subject plus verb plus object. The boy is a subject. Broke, that is a verb. The glass, that is an object. The boy broke is an incomplete sentence. The verb required to take an object. This type of a verb such as broke are called a transitive verb. The action done by the subject passed to an object, the glass. Now let us look at some example. The structure of a sentence with an intransitive verb in it. It rained last night. So it is an subject, rain is an verb. Last night added an information. Here the verb does not require to take an object. The object is an optional. This type of verb such as rained are called intransitive verb. Here the subject are doing the action, but the action do not pass to the object. They stop with the subject. Now students, let us underline the verb in this sentence and say whether they are a transitive or intransitive. Okay. They show me the photo album. So, here the verb is show. So, it is an transitive verb. She cried all day when her dog died. Cried. So, it is an intransitive verb. The poor sleep in the street. Sleep. It is also an intransitive verb. My mother cleans the house every day. Cleans, that is a transitive verb. Time change all things. Changes, that is an transitive verb. Okay children? Now you might have understood. Now here we have to complete the sentence and then say whether the verbs are transitive or intransitive. Okay? Ram passed his test brilliantly. Okay students, I have completed the sentence. Ram passed his test brilliantly. So, it is an transitive verb. The couple danced till midnight. So, here also I have completed the sentence and it is an intransitive. He rang the bell several times. So, it is an transitive verb. We drove out of the town. It is an intransitive verb. Sudha gave me a beautiful gift. It is also a transitive verb. So, student, you might have understood the transitive word and intransitive verb. Okay, students? Now, I will move directly to the prefix and the suffix that already I have explained you in the previous lecture. So, words here are write. So, what it will be? Rewrite, tied, untied, match, mismatch, view, review, understand, misunderstand, focal, bifocal, do, undo, weekly, bi-weekly, able, unable, hit, reheat. So, student, here we have to add the suffix kind, kindness, harm, harmful, teach, teacher, swing, swinging, short, shortness, play, player, truth, truthful, break, breakable, sad, sadness, read, readable. So that's all students. You might have understood the lesson as well as grammar. So be safe, be at home. We will meet you on the next lecture. Have a good day.